She was 8 months pregnant, standing barefoot on her own front porch. At midnight in December, her husband had just shoved her out the door. His mistress was waiting in the driveway to take her place. But here is what Grant Colton did not know. His wife's dash cam was recording everything. Every word, every shove, every moment of his betrayal captured in high definition. And that footage was about to destroy him, his career, his reputation, his entire carefully constructed life. Gone, in the time it takes to press play. This is the story of a woman who lost everything in one night. Her home, her marriage, her faith in love, and how she burned her husband's world to the ground without ever raising her voice. Stay with me until the end, because what happens at minute 87 will shock you. This is not just a story about betrayal. This is a story about justice. Get out of my house. The words sliced through the darkness like a blade. Meredith Colton stood frozen in the hallway of the home she had decorated with her own hands. The home where she had hung family photos on every wall. The home where she had painted the nursery soft yellow just 3 weeks ago. Grant stood in the doorway to their bedroom. His face was twisted into something she had never seen before or in 4 years of marriage. Cold, hard, like he was looking at a stranger he wanted gone. The grandfather clock in the living room chimed, 12:15 in the morning. The sound echoed through the silent house like a death knell. Behind Grant, through the bedroom window, headlights illuminated the driveway. Someone was waiting in a car outside. The engine was running. Meredith could hear it humming through the glass, a soft, patient purr, like a predator waiting for its prey. Grant! Her voice came out smaller than she intended, weaker. She hated the sound of it. What is happening? I do not understand what is happening right now. He walked past her without making eye contact. He was carrying her suitcase, the blue one with the silver zipper, the one they had bought together for their honeymoon in Italy 4 years ago. She remembered standing in the luggage store, laughing about how they would fill it with souvenirs, how they would use it for every adventure they took together. He had already packed it. Her clothes were folded inside, her toiletries, her phone charger, her prenatal vitamins. He had been planning this. While she slept, while their daughter kicked inside her belly, he had been packing her life into a suitcase. Tessa is moving in tonight. His voice was flat, matter of fact, like he was discussing a change in the quarterly budget at work. I have made my choice. Your things are by the door. Meredith felt the baby kick, a sharp jab against her ribs. Her daughter knew something was wrong. Even in the womb, even without words or understanding, she could sense her mother's terror. Tessa. Meredith knew that name. Tessa Marlowe, 28 years old, junior executive at Wexford Industries. The woman who always stood a little too close to Grant at company events. The woman who laughed too loud at his jokes and touched his arm when she talked to him. Meredith had noticed. Of course she had noticed. But she had told herself she was being paranoid. Pregnancy hormones, insecurity, the natural anxiety of a woman whose body was changing in ways she could not control. She had trusted her husband. God, she had trusted her husband. You cannot be serious. Meredith placed her hand on her belly. 8 months pregnant, 32 weeks. Her daughter was the size of a butternut squash. She had read that in the pregnancy app just yesterday. Grant, I am 8 months pregnant. It is the middle of December. It is after midnight. She looked at the thermostat on the wall. 68 degrees inside. She looked at the window, frost creeping along the edges of the glass. It was 23 degrees outside. She had checked the weather before bed because she wanted to know if she needed to wear extra layers to her doctor's appointment tomorrow. Her doctor's appointment. The one where they were going to do another ultrasound. The one where Grant had promised to come so they could see their daughter's face together one more time before she was born. You have your car. Grant set the suitcase by the front door. Next to it were 3 garbage bags, black plastic, bulging with her belongings, like she was trash being thrown out on collection day. You can go to your mother's house. I already called ahead. She knows you are coming. He had called her mother. He had warned Caroline before he threw out his pregnant wife. He had thought of everything, every detail, every contingency, except he had not thought about how this would look. He had not thought about witnesses. Grant, please. Meredith heard the desperation in her own voice. She hated it. Can we talk about this? Can we at least talk about what is happening? I deserve an explanation. After 4 years of marriage, I deserve to understand. There is nothing to talk about. He would not look at her. He was straightening the items by the door, arranging them neatly, like he was preparing for a presentation at work. I have been unhappy for a long time. Tessa makes me happy. This is the right decision for everyone. Everyone. The word tasted bitter in her mouth. Does everyone include your daughter? The baby I am carrying. Your baby. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance. Impatience, like she was being difficult. Like she was causing a scene at an inconvenient time. We will work out custody arrangements through lawyers. I will be a good father, but I cannot stay in this marriage anymore. I will not stay in this marriage anymore. Meredith's hands were shaking. She reached into her pocket for her phone. She needed to call someone. Her mother. Sloan. Anyone. She needed help. She needed to understand how her entire life had shattered in the span of 5 minutes. Grant moved fast. Faster than she expected. Faster than a man should move toward his pregnant wife. He grabbed her wrist. His fingers dug into her skin. He twisted her arm behind her back. The phone clattered to the floor. The screen cracked against the hardwood. Grant! The pain shot up her arm. Grant, you are hurting me. Stop. Please stop. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. His breath was hot against her ear. His voice was low, threatening, a voice she had never heard from him before. Just leave quietly, with dignity. Tessa is waiting. Do not embarrass yourself. He shoved her toward the door, hard, harder than he had ever touched her in 4 years of marriage, harder than she had ever imagined he could touch anyone. Meredith stumbled, her bare feet caught on the threshold. She reached for the doorframe, but her fingers slipped. Her shoulder hit the porch railing. Her hip struck the concrete step. The cold hit her immediately. December air cutting through her thin pajamas like ice water. Her feet were bare against the frozen concrete. Her breath came out in white clouds. The frost bit into her skin. The front door slammed behind her. The deadbolt clicked. She was outside, 8 months pregnant, barefoot, wearing nothing but flannel pajamas with little snowflakes on them. The pajamas Grant had given her last Christmas. The pajamas she had worn to bed tonight because they reminded her of him, because she had loved him. Her hospital bag was at her feet. He had thrown it out after her. At least he had remembered that. At least he had thought about the baby enough to throw out the bag that contained her infant daughter's first outfit. The tiny pink onesie that said, "Daddy's little girl." The irony was not lost on her. The car in the driveway turned off its engine. The driver's door opened. The interior light illuminated a woman's silhouette. Meredith watched as Tessa Marlowe stepped out. She was wearing a camel-colored cashmere coat, the kind that cost more than Meredith's entire monthly clothing budget. Her boots were high-heeled, leather, polished. Her hair was perfectly styled in loose waves. Her makeup was fresh, flawless. She looked like she was arriving for a magazine photo shoot, not moving into another woman's home at midnight, not stepping over the broken pieces of a 4-year marriage. Tessa did not look at Meredith. She walked up the porch steps. Her heels clicked against the wood. Click, click, click. Each step deliberate, confident. The walk of a woman who had already won. She rang the doorbell. Grant opened it immediately. He smiled at her. The same smile he used to give Meredith when she came home from work. The smile that had made her fall in love with him. "Welcome home, baby." His voice was warm, tender, loving. The door closed behind them both. Meredith stood on the cold porch for a long moment. Her mind refused to process what had just happened, refused to accept it, refused to let it be real. Her husband of 4 years had physically thrown her out of their home, while she was pregnant with his child, while she was 8 months along, while their daughter kicked inside her belly to make room for his mistress. She tried the door handle, locked. She tried it again, still locked. One more time, locked, locked, locked. The repetition felt insane. She knew it was locked. She had heard the deadbolt, but her hands kept reaching for it anyway, like her body had not caught up with reality yet. Like some part of her still believed this was a nightmare she would wake from. She stood there in the freezing cold. Her toes were going numb. Her fingers were turning white. The baby kicked again, restless, distressed, sensing her mother's panic. Then Meredith remembered something. Her car. The silver Honda Accord parked in the driveway. Grant had insisted she install a dash cam 2 months ago. For safety, he said, in case of accidents, in case someone hit her in a parking lot and drove away. He wanted to make sure she was protected. The irony was not lost on her now. The dash cam had a parking mode feature. It recorded whenever it detected motion near the car. It had a 180-degree wide-angle lens. It captured everything in front of the vehicle in high definition. Meredith had parked facing the house tonight. She always parked facing the house. Grant preferred it that way, said it looked neater, more organized. The camera would have been pointed directly at the front porch, directly at the door, directly at everything that had just happened. She looked at her car. The little red light on the dash cam was still blinking in the darkness, recording, saving, capturing every moment. Her heart began to beat faster, not with fear now, with something else, something that felt almost like hope. She walked to the car on numb feet. Each step sent pain shooting through her frozen toes. The gravel of the driveway bit into her soles, but she kept walking, one foot in front of the other. The spare key was where it always was, magnetic box under the wheel well. Her father had insisted on it years ago. Just in case, he had said. You never know when you might get locked out. You never know when you might need an escape. She had never been more grateful for her father's paranoia, for his constant preparation, for all the times he had warned her to have a backup plan. Meredith unlocked the car and climbed inside. The leather seats were freezing. She could feel the cold through her thin pajamas. But she did not care. She was inside. She was safe. She had four walls around her and a roof over her head. She turned on the engine, cranked the heat to maximum. The vents blew cold air at first, then lukewarm, then finally blessedly warm. She held her hands in front of the vents and waited for feeling to return to her fingers. Then she pulled up the dash cam footage on the display screen. The video was crystal clear. Night vision mode, perfect audio. She could see everything. There she was, on the porch, wearing her snowflake pajamas, her pregnant belly visible even in the darkness. Grant behind her, his hand on her arm, the twist, the shove, her body stumbling, her shoulder hitting the railing, her hips striking the concrete. She could hear his voice on the recording. Get out of my house. She could hear her own voice. Grant, you are hurting me. Please stop. She could see the door slam, the deadbolt click, the lights in the living room turn off one by one as Grant walked through the house that used to be hers. She could see Tessa walking up the steps. The doorbell. Grant opening the door with that smile. Welcome home, baby. Everything. The camera had captured everything. Meredith saved the file. Her hands were still shaking, but she forced them to work. Cloud backup, phone backup, SD card backup. 3 copies, 3 separate locations. 3 pieces of evidence that could never be erased. She sat back in her seat. The heater was finally working. Warm air thawed her frozen feet. Circulation returned to her toes in painful prickles. Her daughter kicked again, softer this time, like she was trying to comfort her mother, like she was saying, I am here. We are in this together. Meredith put her hand on her belly. She felt a small foot pressing against her palm, tiny, fierce, alive. Then she let herself cry. The sobs came from somewhere deep in her chest. Ugly sounds, animal sounds, the kind of crying that hurt. That made her ribs ache and her throat burn. That left her gasping for air between waves of grief. She cried for her marriage. For the 4 years she had invested in a man who could throw her out like garbage. She cried for her daughter. For the family her baby would never have. She cried for herself. For the woman who had believed in love and trust and happily ever after. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she wiped her face with her sleeve. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were swollen. Her nose was red. Her hair was tangled and wild. She looked like a woman who had just lost everything. But she was still here, still breathing, still fighting. I know, baby, she whispered to her daughter. I know this is scary. I am scared too, but we are going to be okay. I do not know how yet, but we are going to be okay. She did not believe the words, not really, but she said them anyway, because her daughter was listening, and Meredith needed to be strong for her, even now, especially now. She pulled out of the driveway at 12:47 in the morning. The house grew smaller in her rearview mirror. The lights were still off. Grant and Tessa were probably in the bedroom by now. In the bed Meredith had shared with her husband for 4 years, on the sheets she had bought, under the comforter she had chosen. She pushed that image away. She could not think about that right now. She would fall apart completely if she thought about that. Instead, she focused on the road, on the white lines illuminated by her headlights, on putting 1 mile after another between herself and the worst night of her life. Her phone was cracked but still functional. She connected it to the car's Bluetooth system. She called her mother. Carolyn answered on the second ring. Her voice was alert, worried. She had not been sleeping. She had been waiting. "Sweetheart," Caroline's voice cracked. "Are you okay? Are you driving? Talk to me." "I am driving." Meredith's voice was steadier than she expected, flat, empty. "I am coming to you. I will be there in 40 minutes. "I know. Grant called. He said—" Carolyn paused. "He said you left him, that you decided to end the marriage." The rage flared hot in Meredith's chest. Even now, even after everything he had done, he was still lying, still spinning the narrative, still making himself the victim. "He threw me out," Meredith said, "physically. He grabbed my arm and shoved me out the front door at midnight while I was 8 months pregnant because his mistress was waiting in the driveway." Silence on the other end of the line. Then a sound Meredith had never heard from her mother before. A low, dangerous growl. The sound of a mama bear ready to protect her cub. "Drive safe, sweetheart." Carolyn's voice was controlled now. "Steel wrapped in velvet. I am waiting on the porch. We will figure this out together." The line went dead. Meredith drove through the empty streets, past darkened houses where families slept, past Christmas decorations twinkling on lawns, past a world that was peaceful and normal and completely unaware that her life had just been destroyed. "I am not crazy. I know what I saw. I know what happened." The thought came unbidden, strong, certain. She held onto it like a lifeline. She had the footage. She had proof. Whatever lies Grant might tell, she had the truth recorded in high definition. Every word, every action, every moment of betrayal. Meredith Colton had lost her home, her husband, and her future in the span of 30 minutes. But she had not lost her mind, and she had not lost her fight. She kept driving toward her mother's house, toward safety, toward whatever came next. The highway stretched before her like a black ribbon, empty, silent. The only car on the road at this hour. Meredith gripped the steering wheel with both hands. Her knuckles were white. Her jaw was clenched. Every muscle in her body was tense, waiting for the next blow to fall. But the night was quiet. The road was clear. The heater hummed and her daughter kicked, and the miles passed one by one. She thought about the last 4 years of her life. She had met Grant at a marketing conference in Chicago. She was 27 years old, a rising star at her firm, confident and ambitious and ready to take on the world. He had been standing by the coffee station during a break, tall, handsome, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He had smiled at her and asked if she preferred the hazelnut or the French vanilla creamer. Such a simple question, such an ordinary beginning. But there had been something in his eyes, something that made her feel seen, something that made her believe he was genuinely interested in her answer. Not just making small talk, not just killing time before the next session. "Neither," she had said. "I take my coffee black. The creamers are just flavored chemicals pretending to be dairy." He had laughed. A real laugh, not the polished executive chuckle she had heard from 100 other men at 100 other conferences. "A woman who knows what she wants," he had said. "I like that." He had pursued her relentlessly after that. Flowers delivered to her office every Monday morning, handwritten notes that quoted her favorite poems. A trip to Paris for their third date because she had mentioned once that she had always wanted to see the Eiffel Tower at night. She had thought she was lucky. Her friends had been jealous. Her mother had cried happy tears at the wedding. Everyone told her she had found one of the good ones. Now driving through the darkness with her daughter kicking in her belly, she wondered if any of it had been real. Had he ever loved her? Or had she just been convenient? A prop in the story he wanted to tell about himself. The successful executive with the beautiful wife and the baby on the way. She remembered their wedding day, the way he had cried during his vows, his voice breaking as he promised to love her in sickness and in health, for richer or for poorer. Until death do them part. Had those tears been real? Or had he already been thinking about other women? About escape routes? About the life he really wanted? She remembered the night she told him she was pregnant. They had been trying for 6 months. Every negative test had felt like a failure. Every period had brought tears and disappointment. Then the pink line appeared. 2 pink lines, clear and bright and unmistakable. She had walked out of the bathroom holding the test, trembling, terrified, overjoyed. Grant had been sitting on the bed reading a report from work. He had looked up and seen her face and known immediately. He had lifted her off her feet, spun her around the room, pressed his forehead against hers and whispered, "We are going to be parents. I am going to be a father. This is the happiest day of my life." She had believed him. God help her, she had believed every word. The memory felt poisoned now, tainted. Like looking at a beautiful photograph and realizing the smile was fake, the happiness staged, the whole thing a performance. Her phone buzzed, a text from Sloan. "Are you okay? Your mom just called me. I'm coming over. Don't argue." Meredith did not have the energy to argue. She did not have the energy for anything except driving, putting 1 mile after another between herself and the house where her husband was sleeping with another woman. She thought about the dashcam footage, about the evidence saved in 3 separate locations, about what would happen when people saw it. Grant had built his entire career on his reputation. Mr. Reliable, Mr. Family Man, the executive who brought his pregnant wife to company events and gave speeches about work-life balance, who mentored young employees and chaired the company's ethics committee. The irony of that last detail almost made her laugh. Grant Colton, chair of the ethics committee, giving speeches about integrity and accountability while he cheated on his pregnant wife. What would Diane Wexford think when she saw that footage? The woman who had built Wexford Industries from nothing, who had created a corporate culture based on trust and transparency, who had personally fired executives for far less than what Grant had done. Meredith filed that thought away for later. Right now, she could not think about revenge. She could only think about survival, about getting through the next hour, the next day, the next week. The exit for her mother's town appeared on the highway. Meredith took it. The streets here were familiar. She had grown up on these roads, had ridden her bike past these houses, had walked to school through this neighborhood every morning for 12 years. Nothing had changed. The same oak trees lined the streets. The same Christmas lights decorated the same lawns. The same mailbox stood at the corner where she had kissed David Peterson after the 8th grade dance. But everything had changed. She was not the same girl who had grown up here. She was a woman now, a pregnant woman, a woman whose husband had just thrown her out of her home in the middle of the night. She pulled into her mother's driveway at 1:32 in the morning. Caroline was standing on the front porch. She was wearing her old terry cloth robe, the pink one with the coffee stains that she refused to throw away because Meredith's father had given it to her on their 10th anniversary. Her gray hair was loose around her shoulders. Her feet were bare despite the cold. She looked older than Meredith remembered, older and sadder and exactly like home. Meredith turned off the engine. She did not move. She sat in the car and stared at her mother through the windshield. Her hands were still gripping the steering wheel. Her body was still tense, still waiting for something terrible to happen. Caroline did not rush her. She just waited, patient, steady, the same way she had waited when Meredith was 7 and scraped her knee on the playground. The same way she had waited when Meredith was 17 and heartbroken over a boy whose name she could no longer remember. The same way she would always wait, no matter how long it took, no matter what had happened. Meredith finally opened the car door. The cold hit her again. She had almost forgotten how cold it was. The car had been so warm, so safe. Her bare feet touched the frozen gravel of the driveway. The pain was immediate, sharp, like walking on glass. Carolyn met her halfway. She wrapped a blanket around Meredith's shoulders, soft fleece, warm from the dryer. The kind of warmth that came from being expected, from being loved. Inside, Carolyn's voice was firm but gentle. Tea first, talk later. Meredith let herself be guided. Through the front door, into the kitchen where she had eaten 1,000 after-school snacks, where her father had taught her to make pancakes before he died of a heart attack 10 years ago, where she had cried over breakups and celebrated promotions and planned her wedding. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon. Carolyn had been baking, stress baking, the same way she always did when the world fell apart, when Meredith's father was diagnosed with heart disease, when the stock market crashed and their retirement savings vanished, when the world stopped making sense. Meredith sat at the table, the same wooden table where she had done homework and eaten Thanksgiving dinners and celebrated birthday cakes. Her hands wrapped around a mug of chamomile tea. The ceramic was chipped on one side. She remembered chipping it herself 20 years ago when she dropped it while washing dishes. Some things lasted forever. Some things broke and stayed broken. Some things broke and were mended and became stronger in the broken places. He called me 2 hours ago. Caroline sat across from Meredith. Her hands were folded on the table. Her face was calm, but her eyes were burning. He said you were leaving him, that you had decided to end the marriage, that you were unstable and emotional, and he was worried about your mental health. Meredith laughed. The sound came out harsh and broken, like something dying. He threw me out, she said, physically. He grabbed my arm and shoved me out the front door at midnight while I was 8 months pregnant because his mistress was waiting in the driveway to move in. Carolyn's face went very still. The stillness of a woman who was controlling a rage so deep it could burn down cities. He put his hands on you. Yes. While you were pregnant. Yes. While you were carrying his child. Yes. Carolyn closed her eyes, her jaw tightened, her hands gripped the edge of the table. Meredith recognized that expression. Cold fury. The same look her mother had worn when a teacher accused Meredith of cheating in 5th grade. The same look she had worn at the hospital when the insurance company tried to deny her husband's coverage. The same look she wore when someone she loved was threatened. When Caroline opened her eyes, something had changed. Something hard and sharp had settled into her gaze. Something that promised consequences. Show me, she said. Meredith pulled up the dashcam footage on her phone. The cracked screen flickered, but the video played. She handed it to her mother without watching. She could not watch it again. Not yet. The images were still too raw, too fresh, too painful. Carolyn watched in silence. Her expression did not change, but her hands gripped the phone so tightly her knuckles went white. Her breathing became shallow, controlled, the breathing of someone fighting to maintain composure. When the video ended, she set the phone on the table. She was quiet for a long moment, the kind of silence that fills a room before a storm. You saved copies, Carolyn said. It was not a question. 3 backups, cloud, phone, and the original SD card. Good girl. Carolyn reached across the table and took Meredith's hands. Her grip was warm and strong and unshakable. We are going to destroy him. The words should have felt wrong, should have felt vengeful and petty, and beneath them both. They did not. They felt like justice. They felt like a promise. They felt like exactly what Meredith needed to hear. I don't know what to do, Meredith said. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to. Her voice broke. The tears started again. She was so tired of crying, so tired of feeling helpless and lost and broken. Carolyn moved around the table and held her daughter. Meredith sobbed into her mother's shoulder like she was 5 years old again, like the world was too big and too cruel, and only her mother could make it better. You don't have to know anything tonight, Carolyn whispered. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow we fight. But tonight you are safe. You are home and no one is going to hurt you again. They stayed that way for a long time. Mother and daughter holding each other in the kitchen where they had shared 1,000 meals, where they had weathered 1,000 storms. Outside, the sky began to lighten. Dawn was coming. A new day, a new chapter. Meredith did not know what that chapter would hold, but she knew she would not face it alone. Later, in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by swimming trophies and faded posters of boy bands she had long forgotten, Meredith tried to sleep. The bed was too small. Her pregnant belly made every position uncomfortable. The room smelled like lavender and old memories, like the past pressing in from all sides. She stared at the ceiling and thought about the life she had been living, the life that had seemed so perfect from the outside. The beautiful house in the suburbs, the successful husband, the baby on the way, the Instagram post that made all her friends jealous. None of it had been real. None of it had been true. She had been living in a fantasy, a carefully constructed illusion, and Grant had been the architect. She picked up her iPad from the nightstand. She had left it here at Thanksgiving. Forgotten to bring it home. Another one of her pregnancy brain moments. Another mistake that turned out to be a blessing. She opened her messages. The iPad was still synced to the family iCloud account. The same account Grant used for his phone. 18 months of text messages loaded onto the screen. Grant and Tessa, message after message, going back to before Meredith got pregnant, before they even started trying for a baby. She read the first one, dated April of the previous year, a month after their third wedding anniversary. I can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? Tonight, my wife has a work dinner. The house will be empty. Come over at 7. I hate sneaking around like this. When are you going to leave her? Soon, baby, I promise. I just need to find the right time. Be patient. Meredith felt sick. She kept reading. She found messages from the day she told Grant she was pregnant, the day he had lifted her off her feet and spun her around and cried tears of joy. The test was positive. She's pregnant. I thought you were being careful. I was. These things happen. But listen, this is actually perfect. How is that perfect? You're having a baby with her. This makes everything more complicated. She'll be too tired and emotional to notice anything now. Pregnancy takes a lot out of women. The hormones make them distracted. We can use this time to plan. Plan what? Our future. Once the baby is born, I'll tell her I want a divorce. By then, we'll have everything in place. The accounts, the paperwork, everything. What about the baby? I'll get partial custody. Every other weekend. It won't interfere with our life together. Trust me, this is going to work out perfectly. Meredith set down the iPad. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold it. He had never wanted this baby. He had seen the pregnancy as an opportunity, a distraction, a way to keep Meredith occupied while he planned his escape with another woman. Every time he had rubbed her feet, every time he had talked to her belly in that soft, loving voice, every time he had cried at the ultrasound and said he could not wait to meet his daughter, all of it was performance. All of it was lies. Every single moment, the baby kicked hard, angry, like she knew, like she understood that her father had never wanted her, that he had seen her as an inconvenience, an obstacle, a pawn in his game. Meredith placed both hands on her stomach. She breathed through the pain. Not physical pain, something deeper, something that would leave scars no one could see. He doesn't deserve you, she whispered to her daughter. He doesn't deserve either of us. And I promise you will never feel unwanted. I will love you enough for both of us. I will love you so much you will never doubt that you were meant to be here. She did not sleep that night. She read every message, downloaded every conversation, built a folder of evidence that documented 18 months of betrayal. When the sun came up, painting her childhood bedroom in pale winter light, Meredith finally understood the full scope of what had been done to her. This was never a sudden decision. This was never a moment of weakness or a midlife crisis or a mistake made in passion. This was a calculated campaign. A long con, 18 months of careful planning and deliberate deception, and she had been the mark all along. I deserve better than this. The thought settled into her chest, solid, true, unshakable. She had spent 4 years loving a man who saw her as an obstacle. 4 years building a life with someone who was planning his exit the entire time. 4 years trusting someone who was betraying her every single day. That woman was gone now. The trusting wife, the hopeful mother-to-be, the woman who believed in happily ever after. In her place was someone new, someone harder, someone who had proof of what was done to her, and someone who was not going to stay silent. Meredith picked up her phone. She Googled divorce attorneys in her area. The first name that came up had 4.9 stars and over 200 reviews. Nathan Briggs, specializing in complex divorces and domestic disputes. She called his office at 7:30 in the morning. The receptionist answered on the third ring. Briggs Law Office, how may I help you? I need to see Nathan Briggs today. It is urgent. I am sorry, but Mr. Briggs is booked solid this week. I can schedule you for next Thursday at 2 o'clock. Meredith took a deep breath. She thought about the footage, the messages, the $300,000 she was certain had disappeared from their joint accounts. My husband assaulted me last night while I was 8 months pregnant. I have video evidence. I have 18 months of text messages documenting his affair, and I need to file for divorce before he drains the rest of our accounts. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Hold, please. Music played, soft classical, the kind of music designed to calm people who were calling divorce attorneys at 7:30 in the morning. The receptionist returned. Can you be here at 11:30 this morning? I will be there at 11. She hung up the phone. Her mother appeared in the doorway with a cup of coffee and a plate of toast. That's my girl, Caroline said. That is exactly my girl. Meredith took a long sip of coffee. It was too hot and burned her tongue. She did not care. I'm going to need to borrow some clothes, she said. And shoes. I left the house barefoot. I kept all your old things. In the closet upstairs, everything you left behind when you got married. Of course you did, Caroline smiled, a thin, fierce smile, the smile of a woman who had been through her own battles and survived them all. A mother always keeps her daughter's armor, just in case she needs to go to war. Nathan Briggs had an office on the 14th floor of a glass building downtown, the kind of building where important people made important decisions and charged $500 an hour for the privilege. Meredith arrived at 11 wearing her mother's maternity dress from 1992. It was slightly out of style. The shoulder pads were too big. The pattern was dated, but it was clean and professional, and it fit over her 8-month belly. Her feet were stuffed into an old pair of sneakers she had found in her childhood closet, the same sneakers she had worn to cross-country practice in high school. The rubber was cracked. The laces were frayed, but they were better than bare feet. She did not look like the polished marketing director she had been 48 hours ago. She did not look like the woman who had given presentations to C-suite executives and negotiated million-dollar contracts. She looked like a woman who had survived something terrible, and she was only beginning to understand what came next. The receptionist showed her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. The city spread out below, tiny cars moving through tiny streets, tiny people going about their tiny lives. Completely unaware that Meredith Colton's entire world had collapsed, she sat at the long mahogany table and waited. Her hands were folded in her lap. Her back was straight. She had learned a long time ago that posture mattered. That sitting tall made you feel tall, made you feel capable of handling whatever came next. Nathan Briggs entered at 11:32. He was tall and thin, with graying temples and wire-rimmed glasses. His suit was expensive but not flashy. His tie was a muted blue. His shoes were polished but worn. The shoes of a man who walked a lot, who worked hard, who did not have time for show. His eyes were kind. That was the first thing she noticed. Behind the professional exterior and the legal credentials, his eyes were kind. Mrs. Colton. He shook her hand. His grip was firm, but not crushing. My receptionist tells me you have quite a story. I have evidence, Meredith said. I think that matters more than the story. Something shifted in his expression. Respect, maybe, or approval. Let me see. Meredith pulled out her phone. She played the Dashcam footage. She watched Nathan's face as he watched Grant shove her out the door, as he watched her hit the railing, as he watched Tessa walk into her home. His expression did not change. He was a professional. He had probably seen hundreds of terrible things in his career, thousands of broken marriages and shattered lives. But when the video ended, he set down his coffee. His jaw was tight. His hands were still. How many copies do you have? He asked. 3. Cloud backup, phone storage, and the original SD card. Good. Do you have anywhere secure to store the SD card? Not your mother's house. Not anywhere Grant would think to look. Meredith thought for a moment. My college roommate, Sloane. She lives in the city. Grant never liked her. He hasn't spoken to her in years. He probably doesn't even know her current address. Perfect. Get the card to her today, this afternoon if possible. Nathan made a note on his legal pad. Now, tell me about the financial situation. Meredith told him about the text messages, about the 18 months of communication between Grant and Tessa, about the plans they had made while she was busy growing a human being inside her body. Nathan listened without interrupting. He made notes. His pen scratched against the paper in quick, precise strokes. He was thorough, methodical, the kind of lawyer who left nothing to chance. When she finished, he looked up. Have you checked your bank accounts recently? Meredith's stomach dropped. No, I didn't think to. Pull them up, right now. She opened her banking app with trembling fingers. Joint checking account, joint savings account. The accounts where they deposited their paychecks every 2 weeks, where they saved for their daughter's college fund, where they kept the emergency reserve that was supposed to protect them from exactly this kind of catastrophe. The checking account had $43.17. The savings account showed a balance of zero. The account had been closed 3 days ago. Meredith stared at the screen. $300,000. Everything they had saved in 4 years of marriage, the down payment they had planned to use for a bigger house, the college fund, the emergency reserve, all of it was gone. He took everything, she whispered. He took everything and I didn't even notice. Nathan nodded slowly, like this was exactly what he had expected. Men like your husband plan these things carefully, he said. He has probably been moving money for months. Small transfers that would not trigger alerts. A few thousand here, a few thousand there, until suddenly there is nothing left. Meredith thought about all the times Grant had handled their finances, all the times she had trusted him to pay the bills, to manage their investments, to plan for their future. He had insisted on it, said it was easier if one person handled everything, said he enjoyed doing it, said she should focus on her job and the baby and not worry about the details. She had never questioned him, never asked to see the statements, never logged into the accounts herself, because that was what wives did, right? They trusted their husbands. They believed their partners were honest. They assumed the person who promised to love them forever would not steal from them. God, I was so stupid. The signs were all there. I just refused to see them. I need to find that money, she said. Her voice was stronger now, angrier. I need to know where it went. I need to know how he did this without me knowing. Nathan made another note. I have a forensic accountant I work with. Her name is Paula Hendricks. She is very good at following money trails. She has found hidden assets in the Cayman Islands, in Swiss bank accounts, in cryptocurrency wallets. If your husband moved that money, she will find it. How much will that cost? Nothing up front. She works on contingency for cases like yours. If she finds the money, she takes a percentage. If she doesn't find it, you don't pay. Meredith nodded. Her head was spinning. There was so much to process, so many things she had never had to think about before. But Meredith, Nathan paused, set down his pen. His voice softened. I need you to understand something before we go any further. What? This isn't going to be quick. It isn't going to be easy. Your husband has resources. He has connections. He has a high-powered attorney who is going to fight dirty. This is going to take months, maybe years. And there will be days when you want to give up, days when it feels like he is winning, days when the system seems stacked against you. Meredith looked out the window. The city sprawled below, millions of people going about their lives, working, loving, fighting, surviving. She thought about her daughter, about the future she wanted for her, a future where her mother was not a victim, a future where actions had consequences, a future where the truth mattered. I won't give up. Good, Nathan smiled. It was the first real smile she had seen from him. Because women who give up lose. Women who fight, who document, who refuse to be silenced. They win. Not always in the ways they expect, but they win. Meredith nodded. Her jaw was set. Her back was straight. She was not the broken woman who had driven through the night crying. She was something else now. Something harder. Something more dangerous. I want to file assault charges, she said. I want him to face criminal prosecution. I want the world to see what he did. Nathan pulled out a business card, white cardstock, simple black text. This is Detective Roy Caldwell. He handles domestic violence cases for the city. He is thorough, professional, compassionate, and he has no tolerance for men who hurt pregnant women. Meredith took the card. The paper felt heavy in her hand, like a weapon. "One more thing," Nathan said. He leaned forward. His voice dropped. "You mentioned Grant works at Wexford Industries, VP of Operations, reports directly to the CEO. Yes. Why? Because Wexford Industries has one of the strictest ethics policies in the corporate world. Their executives sign morality clauses when they're hired. They're expected to maintain the highest standards of personal conduct. Any behavior that embarrasses the company or violates their code of ethics is grounds for immediate termination." Meredith remembered the company handbook Grant had brought home when he was promoted. She had skimmed through it at his request. Pages and pages about reputation, integrity, trust, the company's zero tolerance for behavior that might damage the brand. "If the board saw that footage," Nathan continued, "it would be a significant problem for your husband, a career-ending problem." Meredith felt something shift in her chest, not just anger now, something more strategic, more calculating. "I hadn't thought about that." "You don't have to think about it now. Right now, we focus on the divorce and the criminal charges, the immediate priorities. But it's worth keeping in mind for later." Nathan stood, extended his hand. "Your husband built his entire career on being the reliable family man, the stable executive, the one everyone could trust. He's about to learn that reputation is a house of cards." He paused, his eyes met hers. "And you have a video that is going to blow the whole thing down." Meredith shook his hand. Her grip was stronger than it had been 24 hours ago. "Thank you, Nathan. Don't thank me yet. We have a lot of work ahead of us." He walked her to the door. "Go home, rest, eat something, take care of yourself and that baby. Tomorrow, we start fighting." Meredith walked out of the building into the December cold. The wind bit at her cheeks. The sun was weak and pale in the winter sky. But for the first time since midnight, she felt something other than despair. She felt the first spark of hope, small and fragile and easily extinguished. But there, burning, waiting to grow. 3 days after the midnight incident, Meredith sat in the rental apartment her mother had helped her find, a small 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. New carpet, fresh paint, blank white walls waiting for someone to make them a home. The rent was more than she could afford on her own, but Nathan had filed for emergency spousal support. The judge had granted it within 48 hours. Grant was required to pay for her housing until the divorce was finalized. The irony was not lost on her. The man who had thrown her out at midnight was now legally required to pay for the roof over her head. The nursery was not ready. She had been planning to decorate it in the house she no longer lived in. The crib was still there, the changing table, the rocking chair she had spent weeks choosing, the mobile with the little stars that played lullabies. Grant had probably let Tessa throw it all away by now. Or maybe they had kept it. Maybe Tessa was already imagining the children she would have with Meredith's husband. In the nursery, Meredith had decorated. She pushed that thought away. It did not matter. None of it mattered. What mattered was building a new life, a better life, a life where she was not dependent on a man who had never loved her. Meredith stood in the empty second bedroom, the room that would become Eleanor's. Right now, it held nothing but cardboard boxes and bare walls and the echoes of her footsteps on the hardwood floor. She tried to imagine it finished. Yellow walls, white curtains, a rocking chair in the corner where she would feed her daughter at 3 in the morning, a bookshelf filled with picture books and stuffed animals. But every time she tried to picture it, she saw the nursery in the old house, the one she had decorated with such hope, the one Grant had complimented so enthusiastically. "The yellow is perfect," he had said. "It's warm but not too bright. It's going to be such a beautiful room for our little girl." Those words felt hollow now, tainted, like everything else from her marriage. The memories kept flooding back, unwanted, unstoppable. A highlight reel of her 4 years with Grant playing on an endless loop. Their first dance at the wedding. Grant spinning her across the floor while their families watched. The way his hand had felt against the small of her back. The way he had whispered, "I love you," in her ear as the song ended. The night she told him she was pregnant. The tears streaming down his face. the way he had pressed his forehead against hers and promised to be the best father in the world. The ultrasound appointment where they learned they were having a girl. Grant squeezing her hands so tight it almost hurt, his voice breaking as he said, "A daughter. We're going to have a daughter." All lies, every word, every gesture, every tear. How had she not seen it? How had she missed the signs for 4 years? Was she really that blind, that desperate to believe in the fairy tale? Somewhere along the way, I became invisible. I was standing right there, but he stopped seeing me. Her phone rang. Sloane's name flashed on the screen. "Are you sitting down?" Sloane asked. Her voice was tight, urgent. "Should I be?" "Probably. I just heard something. About Grant, about the affair, something you need to know." Meredith lowered herself onto one of the moving boxes. The cardboard creaked under her weight. Her daughter kicked restlessly, sensing her mother's anxiety. "What did you hear?" Tessa wasn't his first. She wasn't even close to his first. The words landed like physical blows. Meredith gripped the phone tighter. "What do you mean?" "My cousin works at Wexford Industries in the HR department. She's been there for 6 years. She knows everything that happens in that company." Sloane paused, took a breath. "She says Grant has a reputation, a well-known reputation. He has been having affairs since before you two got married. Different women, always younger employees, always people who reported to him or worked under him." Meredith closed her eyes. The room was spinning. Or maybe she was spinning. She could not tell anymore. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because no one wanted to be the messenger. Because people are cowards. Because everyone assumed you knew and had made your peace with it. Because that's what people tell themselves when they don't want to get involved. That was the worst part. People had known. People at his company had watched Grant parade his mistresses through office parties and business dinners. People had seen him flirting with younger women at conferences and company events. People had noticed the patterns, and no one had said a word. "I never knew," Meredith said. Her voice sounded hollow, distant, like someone else was speaking. "I really thought he loved me. I really believed we were happy." "I know, honey. I am so sorry. I am so sorry." Sloane was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was harder, angrier. "I should have said something. Years ago, I never liked him. You know that. I told you that. I always thought there was something off about him, something too polished, too perfect. But I told myself I was being judgmental, that you were happy, that it wasn't my place to interfere. It wasn't your fault. Maybe not, but I still should have trusted my instincts. I should have pushed harder. I should have protected you." Meredith thought about all the times Sloane had made small comments over the years, asking if Meredith was really happy, suggesting they spend more girls' nights without Grant. The way Sloane's smile had been slightly forced at the wedding, the way her toast had been a few degrees cooler than everyone else's. The signs had been there. Everyone had seen them but her. The hardest part is admitting I knew all along. Deep down, in some buried part of myself, I knew something was wrong, and I chose not to see it. "What am I supposed to do with this information?" Meredith asked. "Whatever you want, use it. Don't use it. But you deserve to know the full picture. You deserve to understand exactly what kind of man you were married to for 4 years." After they hung up, Meredith sat in the empty room for a long time. The afternoon light shifted across the bare walls. Shadows lengthened. The sun began its slow descent toward the horizon. She thought about the woman she had been, the trusting wife, the devoted partner, the woman who believed her husband's lies because believing them was easier than facing the truth. That woman felt like a stranger now, someone she used to know, someone she was not sure she wanted to be anymore. She went to the kitchen, opened the pantry, pulled out flour and sugar and cinnamon. She did not have all the ingredients for her grandmother's cinnamon rolls, but she had enough. At 2 in the morning, unable to sleep, Meredith stood at the counter kneading dough. The apartment was silent except for the rhythmic sound of her hands working the flour. The smell of cinnamon filled the small space. The measuring, the kneading, the rising dough. She lost herself in the simple physical work, in the muscle memory of something she had done 100 times before. She did not think about Grant. She did not think about Tessa or the money or the years of lies. She thought about flour and butter, about the way the dough felt beneath her palms, about her grandmother's kitchen where she had learned this recipe, about the feeling of being a child watching capable hands turn simple ingredients into something magical. At 5 in the morning, she ate a cinnamon roll standing at the counter. The glaze was too thick and the dough was slightly underdone. It was not perfect, but it tasted like childhood, like comfort, like a promise that some things could not be taken away. Her daughter kicked in approval. "You like cinnamon rolls?" Meredith said to her belly. "Good, because I'm going to make them for you every Christmas morning. Just you and me. And someday when you're old enough, I'll teach you the recipe. And you'll teach your daughters, and this will be ours, forever. I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay." The thought did not feel like a lie anymore. 1 week after the midnight incident, Detective Roy Caldwell sat across from Meredith in a sterile interview room at the police station. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The table between them was scratched and worn from thousands of difficult conversations. He was a solid man, 50 years old at least, gray hair cropped short, a face lined with experience, the kind of eyes that had seen too much suffering but still believed in doing the right thing. He watched the dashcam footage 3 times. His face remained impassive. He was a professional. He had probably watched hundreds of similar videos, thousands of terrible moments captured by security cameras and cell phones and dash cams. But Meredith saw the way his jaw tightened on the second viewing, the way his hands gripped the edge of the table, the way something hardened in his eyes. "The footage is clear," he said finally. His voice was calm, professional, but underneath she heard the anger. "He put his hands on you. You were visibly pregnant. You fell and hit the ground. This is domestic assault. What happens now? We issue a restraining order. He is not allowed within 500 feet of you, your residence, or your place of work. Any violation is an automatic arrest." Detective Caldwell made a note in his file. "Then we file charges with the district attorney's office. Given the evidence, the prosecutor should move forward quickly." How quickly? Weeks, not months. That video makes everything simpler. There's no he said, she said, there's no ambiguity about what happened. The footage shows exactly what he did. The restraining order was served 2 days later. Grant's response came through his attorney, a statement released to the media before Meredith even saw it, carefully worded paragraphs describing the footage as misleading and taken out of context. "My client and his wife had been experiencing marital difficulties for some time," the statement read. "On the night in question, emotions were running high. Mr. Colton attempted to assist his wife when she tripped on the threshold. Any suggestion of assault is a deliberate mischaracterization designed to damage his reputation during divorce proceedings." Meredith watched the attorney's face on the local news. A polished man in an expensive suit, silver hair, perfect teeth, the kind of smile that cost thousands of dollars and conveyed nothing. He was good. She had to admit that. He spoke with confidence and authority. He used words like misunderstanding and unfortunate situation and healing process. He made Grant sound like the reasonable one, the victim, the man being attacked by his unstable pregnant wife. The rage built slowly inside her, a fire in her chest that would not go out. How dare he? How dare he twist this into her fault? She had the footage. Everyone could see what happened. And still he lied. Still he twisted. Still he played the victim. She thought about calling Nathan, about screaming at someone, about throwing something. Instead, she took a deep breath. She placed her hands on her belly. She felt her daughter kick. "You are going to make it through this. You are stronger than he knows." Her phone rang, unknown number. She almost did not answer. Too many reporters had found her cell number in the past few days, but something made her swipe to accept. "Mrs. Colton?" The voice was male, young, nervous. "This is Marcus Wexford. My mother runs Wexford Industries. I think we should talk." Meredith knew that name. Marcus Wexford, the CEO's son, Grant's rival at the company. They had competed for the VP position 3 years ago. Grant had won. Marcus had been moved to a smaller division, a demotion disguised as a lateral move. Grant had gloated about it for weeks, about how he had outmaneuvered the boss's son, about how talent beat nepotism every time. What do you want to talk about? Meredith asked. Your husband and the footage that's been circulating online. I think you should know some things about how he operates at the company, things that might be relevant to your situation. They met at a coffee shop 2 miles from Meredith's apartment. Neutral territory, public space, safe enough. Marcus Wexford was younger than she expected, early 30s, well-dressed but anxious. He kept checking the door like he expected Grant to walk in at any moment. I'm taking a risk by meeting you, he said. His coffee sat untouched in front of him. If Grant finds out, if anyone at the company finds out, it could make my life very difficult. Then why are you here? Marcus looked down at the table. When he spoke, his voice was tight with barely contained anger. Because I've watched him operate for 5 years. I've watched him charm his way to the top while stepping on everyone beneath him. I've watched him take credit for other people's work. I've watched him manipulate and lie and scheme his way into positions he never deserved. He paused, looked up, met her eyes. And I watched the footage of what he did to you, to his pregnant wife, to a woman who trusted him. And I decided I couldn't stay silent anymore. Marcus told her about Tessa Marlowe's career at Wexford Industries. 2 promotions in 1 year, both signed off by Grant, both circumventing the normal review process, both coming with salary increases that were wildly out of proportion to her performance reviews. He told her about the expense reports, hotels billed to the company for client meetings that never happened, dinners at expensive restaurants charged to corporate accounts, weekend trips to resorts listed as team-building retreats when no team was ever invited. He told her about the whispers in the office, the open secret that everyone knew but no one discussed, the way female employees avoided being alone with Grant, the way certain women received promotions they did not deserve while others were passed over for years. Everyone knows, Marcus said. Everyone has always known, but no one talks about it because Grant is too powerful. He's the CEO's golden boy. He brings in results. He makes the numbers look good. And in the corporate world, that covers a multitude of sins. Then why hasn't anyone done anything? Because the people who might do something don't have proof. They have rumors and suspicions and secondhand stories, but nothing concrete, nothing documented. Marcus leaned forward. Until now. The footage. The footage changes everything. It's not a rumor. It's not a suspicion. It's a video of the company's VP of operations physically assaulting his pregnant wife. My mother has built this company on trust and integrity. She has zero tolerance for executives who damage the brand. What do you want in return? Meredith asked. If you're helping me, there must be something you want. Marcus shook his head. I'm not doing this for personal gain. Grant told your company that you left him, that you abandoned your marriage, that he's the victim and you're the unstable pregnant woman who walked out. Meredith felt the anger surge again. He said what? He's been telling everyone at work that you had a breakdown, that the pregnancy hormones made you paranoid and delusional, that he tried to get you help but you refused, that you left him and he's heartbroken. Grant was not just lying about the assault, he was rewriting their entire history, painting himself as the noble husband trying to save his troubled marriage, turning her into the villain of a story she did not write. Meredith sat back in her chair. Her hands were shaking. The coffee had gone cold in front of her, but she did not care. She thought about her daughter, about the world she would be born into, a world where men like Grant could assault their pregnant wives and then claim to be the victim, where money and power and polished lies could rewrite reality. I want the board to see the footage, she said. Marcus nodded. I can make that happen. My mother trusts me. I can arrange a private meeting. But Meredith, he paused. His expression was serious. Once they see it, there's no going back. This will become very public, very ugly. Grant will fight back with everything he has. Are you sure that's what you want? My husband threw me out of my home at midnight while I was 8 months pregnant. He stole $300,000 from our joint accounts. He has been having affairs throughout our entire marriage, and now he's telling everyone that I'm the crazy one. She leaned forward. Her voice was steady, certain. Yes, I am absolutely sure. The board meeting happened 3 days later. Meredith was not there. Nathan had advised her to stay away. Let the footage speak for itself. Let the evidence do the work. But Marcus called her with updates throughout the afternoon. The meeting was held in the executive conference room on the top floor of Wexford Industries headquarters. 12 board members sitting around a polished mahogany table. Diane Wexford at the head, 62 years old. Gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, eyes that missed nothing. She had built this company from nothing. Started in her garage 40 years ago. Grown it into a billion-dollar empire through intelligence and determination and an absolute refusal to compromise on her principles. Her ethics policy was famous in the industry. The strictest morality clauses, the most thorough background checks, the fastest response to any hint of scandal. She watched the footage in silence. She watched it 3 times. Her face revealed nothing. Then Marcus played the financial records, the expense reports, the promotion documents, the pattern of favoritism that showed Grant had been using company resources to fund his affairs for years. Grant tried to defend himself. He minimized. He deflected. He blamed Meredith. He accused her of entrapment and manipulation. He said the footage had been altered. He said his wife was mentally unstable. He said he was the victim. The board was not convinced. Diane Wexford spoke only once during the entire meeting. "This man," she said, "has been representing my company. My company. The company I built with my own hands. He has been standing in front of clients and investors and shareholders, presenting himself as the face of Wexford Industries. And this is who he really is." She pressed play on the footage one more time. The board watched Grant shove his pregnant wife out the door. "Effective immediately," Diane said. "Grant Colton's employment is terminated. Security will escort him from the building. His credentials will be revoked before he reaches the parking garage." The vote was unanimous. Tessa Marlowe was terminated the same day, officially for conflict of interest and falsification of performance reviews. Unofficially because Diane Wexford did not tolerate fools who thought they could use her company as their personal dating service. That evening, Meredith went to her first solo prenatal appointment since leaving. The doctor's office was warm and quiet. Soft music played in the waiting room. Other pregnant women sat in comfortable chairs, reading magazines, checking their phones, living ordinary lives. Dr. Patricia Vance was a calm woman with steady hands and a voice like warm honey. She had delivered hundreds of babies, seen thousands of difficult situations. Nothing surprised her anymore. "Let's see how this little one is doing," she said. She pressed the Doppler against Meredith's belly, the room filled with a rapid whooshing sound, fast and strong and unmistakable. 152 beats per minute, Dr. Vance said. "Perfectly healthy, perfectly normal. Your daughter is thriving." Meredith listened to her baby's heartbeat, the sound of life, of hope, of a future that was still possible despite everything. Tears streamed down her face, not from sadness this time, from relief, from gratitude, from the overwhelming realization that no matter what Grant had done, no matter how badly he had hurt her, this baby was real and healthy in hers. "I'm going to be okay," she whispered. "We're going to be okay." Dr. Vance smiled. "Yes, you are. I see a lot of women in difficult situations. And the ones who make it through are the ones who fight, the ones who don't give up. You're going to be just fine." Meredith left the appointment with an ultrasound photo in her hand, her daughter's profile, the curve of her nose, the tiny fist pressed against her cheek. She taped the photo to the refrigerator in her new apartment, the first decoration in her new home, the first piece of the life she was building. The footage leaked 2 days after the board meeting. Meredith did not know who did it. Nathan suspected someone on the board. Maybe a secretary who had access to the conference room recordings. Maybe an assistant who disagreed with keeping the incident private. Maybe someone who simply believed the public had a right to know. It did not matter who leaked it. What mattered was that by Tuesday morning, the video had been viewed 6 million times. VP shoves pregnant wife at midnight. Dashcam catches everything. The headline was everywhere. Social media, local news, national news, morning talk shows playing the clip with shock commentary and heated debates. Grant's face was on every screen. His name was trending on every platform. The comments were brutal and endless. Monster, abuser, lock him up. How could anyone do that to their pregnant wife? I hope she takes him for everything. This is what corporate America protects. Men like this get away with it every day. She's so brave for fighting back. Meredith watched the coverage from her apartment. Her phone would not stop buzzing. Messages from people she had not talked to in years. Requests for interviews from journalists across the country. Offers of support from women who had been through similar situations. She turned off the phone. She could not process all of this. Not now. Not yet. The apartment had felt too small. The walls were closing in. The noise of the world outside was deafening, even through the double-pane windows. Sloan arrived at midnight with a pint of mint chocolate chip ice cream and a box of tissues. "I've been fielding calls all day," Sloan said. She dropped onto the couch and kicked off her shoes. "Reporters want to talk to you. Your old boss wants to know if you're okay. That girl from college who you barely remember wants to send you a care package." "What did you tell them?" "I told the reporters to contact Nathan. I told your old boss you were surviving. I told the college girl to send the care package to your mom's house." Sloan opened the ice cream and handed Meredith a spoon. "I also told about 6 people to go straight to hell, but I won't burden you with those details." They sat on the floor of the empty living room. The walls were still bare. The furniture was minimal. Boxes remained unpacked in the corners. "I wanted accountability," Meredith said. "I wanted him to face consequences. I didn't want this circus. I didn't want millions of strangers watching the worst night of my life." Sloan was quiet for a moment. "I know, and I'm sorry. This should have been your choice, how it got out, when it got out. That was taken from you, just like everything else." "Everything keeps getting taken from me." The tears came again. Meredith was so tired of crying, so tired of feeling raw and exposed and broken. Sloan held her, said nothing, just let her cry. Later, when the ice cream was gone and the tissues were piled in the wastebasket, Sloan said something that stayed with Meredith. "This is the worst part. Right here, right now, this moment. It has to get better from here." Meredith wanted to believe her, but she was not sure she did. That night, alone in the dark, she Googled her own name. 700,000 results. She closed the laptop, opened it again, closed it, opened it. This was her life now. Public property. A cautionary tale for strangers to discuss over their morning coffee. A symbol for movement she had never asked to represent. She put the laptop away. She lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Her daughter kicked restlessly, as if she could sense her mother's distress. "I know, baby," Meredith whispered. "I know this is scary. I'm scared too. But we're going to get through this. We have to." The next morning, Nathan called with an update. "The prosecutor is moving forward with charges. The viral footage has actually helped our case. The public attention means they can't bury it or plea it down to nothing." "What about the restraining order?" Nathan paused. When he spoke again, his voice was tight. "He violated it last night. He showed up at your mother's house, demanded to talk to you, started yelling when Caroline wouldn't let him in." Meredith's blood went cold. "My mother, is she okay?" "She's fine." She called the police immediately. They arrested him at the scene. He's being processed right now. This violation goes on his record. It makes our case even stronger. "He went to my mother's house." Yes, he's spiraling, Meredith. The termination, the public exposure, the criminal charges. He's losing control of the narrative for the first time in his life. Men like that become dangerous when they feel cornered. Meredith thought about her mother, 60 years old, living alone in the house where Meredith grew up. The house where Grant had eaten Thanksgiving dinner and opened Christmas presents and pretended to be part of the family. "I need to see her." "Of course, but Meredith, I need you to be careful. He's unpredictable right now. The restraining order violation means he'll be held overnight, but he'll probably make bail by tomorrow. Until this is resolved, I need you to vary your routine. Don't go to the same places at the same times. Don't be alone more than you have to be." She hung up feeling something she had not felt before, not fear exactly, something sharper, more focused. She called her mother. "Mom, are you okay?" Caroline's voice was calm, steady, the voice of a woman who had handled worse in her life. "I'm fine, sweetheart. He made a lot of noise, but he never got inside. The police were here within 5 minutes. He looked ridiculous being led away in handcuffs. I almost felt sorry for him." Almost, almost. Then I remembered what he did to you, and the feeling passed. Meredith laughed. It was the first real laugh in weeks. I'm going to paint the nursery today, she said. Do you want to help? Carolyn arrived an hour later with paintbrushes and rollers in a determination to make something beautiful out of all this chaos. They painted the walls soft yellow, the same color Meredith had chosen for the nursery in her old house. But this time it felt different. This time it was hers. Only hers. What are you going to name her? Carolyn asked. Meredith dipped her brush in the paint. She thought about her grandmother, Eleanor, the woman who had taught her to bake cinnamon rolls, the woman who had survived a bad marriage of her own and built a beautiful life on the other side. Eleanor, Meredith said. Eleanor Grace. Caroline's eyes filled with tears. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. Meredith painted another stripe of yellow on the wall. The room was starting to look like a nursery, like a home, like a future. I hope so, she said. I really hope so. 2 weeks later, the criminal case moved forward. Meredith had to testify. She had been dreading this day, imagining it, preparing for it. Nathan had walked her through what would happen, the questions they would ask, the tactics the defense would use, but nothing could fully prepare her for walking into that courtroom. It was packed, every seat filled. Media in the back rows with their notebooks and recorders. Strangers who had followed the case online, wanting to see the conclusion with their own eyes. Women Meredith had never met who sent messages saying they understood, that they had been through similar things, that they believed her. She wore a navy blue dress that her mother had bought for her. Professional, modest, the kind of dress that said she was serious, that she was credible, that she was not playing games. Her belly was huge now. 9 months. The baby could come any day. Every step felt awkward. Every breath felt shallow. Grant sat at the defense table. Meredith had not seen him since the night he threw her out. 2 months ago. It felt like years. He looked different, smaller, diminished. The confident executive who had commanded boardrooms and charmed clients had vanished. In his place was a pale man in an expensive suit that hung loosely on his frame. He had lost weight. His cheeks were hollow. His eyes were shadowed with sleepless nights. His hands trembled slightly as he shuffled papers on the table. For a moment, she almost felt sorry for him. Then she remembered the footage, the shove, the cold concrete under her bare feet, the sound of the deadbolt clicking behind her. The pity vanished. The prosecutor was a woman named Diana Chen, sharp, professional, the kind of lawyer who prepared for every contingency and never asked a question she did not already know the answer to. Mrs. Colton, Diana said, please tell the court what happened on the night of December 12th. Meredith told her story. She kept her voice steady. She described waking up to find Grant packing her suitcase. The confusion, the growing fear, the moment she realized what was happening. He told me Tessa was moving in, she said. He told me he had made his choice. My things were already packed in garbage bags by the door. He had been planning this for weeks. And when you refused to leave voluntarily, what happened? He grabbed my wrist. He twisted my arm behind my back. Then he shoved me toward the door. I stumbled. I fell. My shoulder hit the porch railing. My hip struck the concrete. The courtroom was silent. Every eye was on her. I was 8 months pregnant, Meredith continued. It was after midnight, December, 23 degrees outside. I was wearing pajamas. I had no shoes, no phone, no car keys. My husband locked the door behind me and let his mistress in. Diana nodded. And this entire incident was captured on your vehicle's dash cam. The footage has been authenticated by expert witnesses and entered into evidence. The jury has seen it. Yes. Is there anything in that footage that does not accurately represent what happened that night? No, the footage shows exactly what happened. Every word, every action, every moment. Grant's defense attorney rose for cross-examination. He was a polished man with silver hair and a practiced smile. The kind of lawyer who cost more per hour than most people earned in a week. The kind who had spent decades helping wealthy men escape the consequences of their actions. Mrs. Colton, he said, isn't it true that you and your husband had been having marital difficulties for some time? No, I believed we had a happy marriage. I had no idea he was having affairs. But you were aware of the stress your husband was under at work, The long hours, the demanding schedule. My husband worked hard. I supported his career. That has nothing to do with what he did to me. And isn't it possible that on the night in question, you misinterpreted his actions, that he was merely trying to assist you when you lost your balance? Meredith felt the anger rising, the familiar heat in her chest, but she kept her voice calm, controlled. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her lose control. My husband grabbed my arm. He twisted it behind my back. He shoved me hard enough that I fell and hit concrete. I have the footage. Everyone has seen the footage. There was no misinterpretation. The footage shows a brief moment of contact. It's difficult to determine intent from a few seconds of video. Isn't it possible? Play it again, Meredith said. Her voice was calm but firm. Play the video. Let the jury watch. Let them see my husband tell me to get out of my own house. Let them watch him shove me through the door. Let them watch me fall while I was 8 months pregnant. Let them watch his mistress walk into my home while I sat on the cold porch with nowhere to go. The attorney hesitated. He glanced at Grant. Grant was staring at the table, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. I have no further questions. The jury watched the footage again during closing arguments. Meredith watched their faces, the disgust, the anger, the sympathy. She knew then that he would be convicted. The question was just how severely. But before the verdict, she had one more thing to say. Something she had not told anyone, not Nathan, not her mother, not Sloan. The prosecutor gave her the opportunity during redirect examination. Mrs. Colton, is there anything else you would like the court to know about that night? Anything we haven't discussed? Meredith took a deep breath. She thought about her daughter, about the future, about what it meant to tell the truth even when it hurt. Before he threw me out, she said, my husband said something to me. 5 words that I have not been able to forget. What did he say? Meredith looked at Grant. He finally met her eyes. She saw fear there, and shame, in the desperation of a man who knew he had lost everything. She felt nothing. He said, you were never my first choice. The courtroom murmured. Grant's face went white. All those years, Meredith continued, all the times he told me he loved me, all the promises, the wedding vows, the tears when I told him about the baby. None of it was real. I was never his first choice. I was never the woman he wanted. I was just the one who said yes. She turned to the jury. I am not here for revenge. I am here because what he did was wrong, because actions should have consequences, and because other women deserve to know what kind of man he really is, so they can protect themselves, so they do not waste years of their lives on someone who will never truly see them. The verdict came the next day. Guilty of simple assault, 6 months of community service, mandatory anger management classes, 2 years of probation. Any violation would result in immediate jail time. It was not enough. She had known it would not be enough. The justice system rarely gave victims everything they deserved, but it was something. It was accountability. It was a permanent record that would follow him for the rest of his life. Walking out of the courthouse, Meredith felt something shift inside her. She was no longer the victim of what happened to her. She was the survivor who told the truth. The divorce was finalized 1 month after the criminal conviction. Nathan Briggs had been masterful. He presented every piece of evidence with surgical precision. The dashcam footage, the text messages, the financial records showing months of systematic theft, the pattern of affairs documented through expense reports and corporate email records. The forensic accountant had traced the $300,000 to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands, an account Grant had opened 2 years ago under a shell corporation. Money had been flowing out of their marriage since before Meredith even got pregnant. He had been planning to leave her for years. The only question was when and how. And the answer turned out to be at midnight with a shove while she was 8 months pregnant with his child. The judge was a woman in her 60s named Margaret Sullivan. She had presided over hundreds of divorce cases. She had seen every kind of betrayal and deception that humans could inflict on each other. But when she delivered her ruling, her voice carried a cold fury that surprised everyone in the courtroom. In my 32 years on the bench, Judge Sullivan said, I have rarely seen such a calculated campaign of deception and financial abuse. Mr. Colton systematically drained marital assets while simultaneously maintaining a facade of devoted husband and expectant father. He physically assaulted his pregnant wife and then launched a public relations campaign to paint her as the villain. She turned to Grant. Her eyes were hard. The court finds in favor of the petitioner on all counts. Meredith got the house. She did not want it. Too many memories, too many ghosts. She sold it within a month. Used the money to buy a small cottage near her mother. Something that was hers. Only hers. She got 80% of their remaining assets, including the recovered offshore funds. Grant kept his debt, his damaged reputation, his anger management homework. The judge ordered him to pay child support for the next 18 years. She ordered him to contribute to a college fund for his daughter. She ordered him to maintain health insurance for both Meredith and the baby until the child turned 26. Mr. Colton, the judge said in closing, you will have the opportunity to be a father to your daughter. I hope for her sake that you take that responsibility seriously, because the court will be watching. And I promise you, any failure to meet your obligations will be dealt with severely. Grant said nothing. He stared at the table. He looked like a man who had been hollowed out from the inside. Wexford Industries had terminated him with cause. No severance, no reference. His name was toxic in the industry. Every recruiter who Googled him found the footage. The headlines, the conviction, the man who had once commanded boardrooms and charmed executives was reduced to sending resumes to companies 3 states away. Starting over at the bottom, hoping no one would recognize his name. Meredith felt no joy at his downfall. She felt something more complicated. Relief that it was finally over, sadness for the years wasted, a quiet satisfaction that the truth had won. But mostly she felt tired, bone-deep exhaustion from months of fighting, from late nights with lawyers and early mornings in courtrooms, from carrying a baby while carrying the weight of her entire shattered life. 3 weeks after the divorce was final, she went back to the old house one last time. The new owners had not moved in yet. The realtor gave her the keys for an hour, a chance to say goodbye. Meredith walked through empty rooms. Her footsteps echoed on hardwood floors she had picked out herself. Sunlight streamed through windows she had washed 100 times. She climbed the stairs to the nursery, the yellow wall she had painted with such hope, the room where she had imagined rocking her daughter to sleep, where she had pictured first steps in bedtime stories and all the small moments that make up a childhood. She placed her hand on the wall. The paint was smooth beneath her palm, still bright, still hopeful, unaware of everything that had happened since it was applied. We're going to build something better, she whispered to her belly. I promise you that. We are going to build something so much better. Then she walked out, closed the door behind her, did not look back. That evening, she met her mother for dinner at the diner where they used to go after swimming practice. 20 years of memories in that vinyl booth. First days of school, breakups, college acceptances, wedding planning, all the milestones of a life. They shared a piece of apple pie, her grandmother's favorite, the same pie they had shared 100 times before. Have you decided on a middle name? Carolyn asked. Grace. Carolyn's eyes filled with tears, her own mother's name. The grandmother who had survived a difficult marriage and built a beautiful life. The woman who had taught Meredith that starting over was not just possible, but sometimes necessary. Eleanor Grace Colton, Carolyn said, it is absolutely perfect. Meredith took a bite of pie. It tasted like home, like hope, like the future. I'm going to be okay, Mom. I know you are. I mean it. For the first time since all of this started, I actually believe it. Carolyn reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. Her grip was warm and strong and unwavering. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire. Your grandmother used to say that. I never really understood what it meant until I watched you go through these past few months. Meredith thought about the past 3 months. The midnight assault, the financial betrayal, the public exposure, the trial, the divorce, every terrible thing that had been thrown at her. She had walked through fire, and she had not burned. I'm stronger than I thought I was, she said. You always were. You just did not know it yet. They finished their pie in comfortable silence. Mother and daughter, survivors. The afternoon light slanted through the diner windows, golden and warm. For the first time in months, Meredith felt at peace. 3 weeks after the divorce was finalized, Meredith went into labor. It started at 2 in the morning, a tightening across her belly that woke her from a deep sleep. She lay in the dark for a long moment, wondering if she had imagined it, wondering if it was just another false alarm. Then it came again, stronger this time, more insistent. She timed the contractions on her phone, 8 minutes apart, then 7, then 5. She called her mother. Caroline answered on the first ring. She had been waiting, sleeping with her phone on her pillow, ready for this call. "It's time," Meredith said. "I'm on my way." Carolyn arrived within 30 minutes. They drove to the hospital together through empty streets. The city was sleeping. The world was quiet. But Meredith was wide awake, every nerve ending alive with anticipation and fear and hope. The labor was long, 18 hours. Meredith lost count of the contractions, lost track of time. The world narrowed to pain and breathing, and the steady voice of Dr. Vance guiding her through each wave. Caroline held her hand through the worst of it. Her grip never wavered. Her voice never faltered. "You're doing beautifully," she said. "You're almost there. Just a little more." Sloan arrived at noon with flowers and tears and fierce encouragement. "I cannot believe I am going to be a godmother," she said. "I am going to teach this kid everything. How to throw a punch, how to spot a liar, how to make the perfect martini." "She's a newborn," Meredith said between contractions. "I'm planning ahead." At 3:47 in the afternoon, Eleanor Grace Colton entered the world. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, dark hair that would later lighten to warm brown, her grandmother's nose, her mother's determined chin. Meredith held her daughter for the first time. The weight of her, the warmth, the tiny fingers curling around her thumb, the small mouth opening and closing in confusion at this strange, bright world. Everything else fell away. The pain of the past months, the betrayal, the fear, the anger, the sleepless nights and the tearful days, and the crushing weight of starting over. None of it mattered in this moment. None of it existed. There was only Eleanor, only this small, perfect person who had somehow emerged from the wreckage of Meredith's life. "Hello, Eleanor," she whispered. "I have been waiting so long to meet you." The baby opened her eyes, dark blue, unfocused, but somehow finding her mother's face, somehow knowing her. Meredith counted her fingers. 10. Counted them again. Still 10. Counted her toes. At 10. Checked her breathing. Steady. Her heartbeat. Strong. Over and over. Counting. Checking. Making sure this miracle was real. Making sure she was not dreaming. Sloan was crying. Caroline was crying. Even Dr. Vance had tears in her eyes. "She's perfect," Caroline said. "She is absolutely perfect." Meredith could not speak. The tears were streaming down her face. Happy tears. The first truly happy tears she had cried in months. The hospital room filled with flowers over the next few days. Cards from people Meredith knew. Cards from strangers who had followed her story. Women who had been through their own battles. Women who wanted her to know she was not alone. On the third day, a letter arrived. No return address. Plain white envelope. Meredith's name written in neat handwriting she did not recognize. She opened it carefully. The letter was from Tessa Marlowe. Meredith's first instinct was to throw it away unread, to tear it into pieces, to pretend it had never arrived. But something made her pause. Something made her unfold the paper and read the words. "Mrs. Colton, I know you have no reason to read this letter, no reason to believe anything I have to say, no reason to care about my perspective on anything. But I need to tell you something. Not for forgiveness. I do not expect that. Not for absolution. I do not deserve that. I need to tell you that I was wrong. Grant told me stories about you. He told me you were controlling and jealous and emotionally unstable. He told me you had trapped him in the marriage, that you got pregnant on purpose to keep him from leaving, that you were the villain in his story and he was just trying to escape. I believed him. I wanted to believe him, because the alternative was too ugly to face. Because if I admitted that he was lying, I would have to admit what I had become, what I had helped him do. I watched the footage that the whole world has now seen, and I finally understood what I had been part of, what kind of man I had chosen, What kind of woman I had let myself become. I was not your enemy, Mrs. Colton. I was just another woman he lied to. Another person he manipulated into seeing the world the way he wanted. Another fool who believed his charming smile and his pretty words. That does not make what I did okay. I know that. I participated in the destruction of your marriage. I moved into your home while you sat on the porch in the cold. I have to live with that for the rest of my life. But I thought you should know that I finally see the truth, and I am sorry. Those words are not enough. I know they can never be enough, but they are all I have. I hope your daughter brings you all the joy you deserve. I hope your future is everything he tried to steal from you. Tessa Marlowe. Meredith read the letter twice. She did not know what to feel. She did not forgive Tessa. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she understood something she had not understood before. Grant was a skilled manipulator, a professional liar. He had manipulated Meredith for 4 years. He had manipulated Tessa for just as long. He had manipulated everyone around him into seeing whatever version of reality served his purposes. Tessa was not the monster. Grant was. Tessa was just another casualty in the wreckage he left behind. Meredith folded the letter and put it in a drawer. She would think about it later. Right now, she had a daughter to feed, a daughter to rock to sleep, a daughter who did not care about the complicated history of the adults around her, a daughter who only knew that she was warm and fed and loved. That evening, Nathan called with unexpected news. 3 other women have come forward since the footage went viral. 3 women Grant was involved with before you. 3 women who experienced his pattern of manipulation and control. Meredith closed her eyes. I was not the only one. Not even close. These women had never told anyone what happened to them. They were ashamed. They blamed themselves. They thought no one would believe them. What changed? You, watching you stand up in court and tell the truth. Watching you refuse to be silenced. It gave them courage. Meredith thought about those women, what they must have gone through, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the slow erosion of their sense of reality, the years of thinking they were crazy, of believing the lies because the alternative was too painful. What happens to them now, she asked. Some of them may pursue civil cases. The statute of limitations is complicated for this kind of thing, but others just want to be heard. They want someone to know what happened to them. I want to talk to them, if they are willing. I want them to know they are not alone. Nathan was quiet for a moment. I think that would mean a lot to them. After they hung up, Meredith looked at Eleanor sleeping in the hospital bassinet, tiny and perfect and completely unaware of the complicated world she had been born into. You will never feel alone, Meredith whispered. I promise you that. No matter what happens, no matter how hard things get, you will always have me. You will always have people who love you. Eleanor made a small sound in her sleep, a sigh of contentment, of safety, of trust. Meredith smiled through her tears. She was a mother now, a single mother. The future was uncertain and frightening and frightening, but for the first time in a very long time, she was not afraid. 1 year later, Eleanor was walking now, 11 months old and already determined to explore every inch of the world around her. She toddled across the backyard of Meredith's cottage on sturdy legs, her dark hair bouncing with every step. She fell constantly, picked herself up constantly, never cried when she fell, just got back up and tried again, just like her mother. Meredith stood at the kitchen window, watching her daughter discover the joy of autumn leaves. Eleanor would pick one up, examine it with solemn concentration, then throw it in the air and laugh as it floated back down. Simple pleasures. Infinite joy. The cottage was small but perfect. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen with windows that faced the garden, a living room filled with books and toys and evidence of a life being lived. The walls were covered with photographs. Eleanor's first smile, her first tooth, her first steps. The milestones of a year documented with the obsessive care of a first-time mother. But there were older photos too. Meredith's parents on their rare wedding day, her grandmother in her kitchen, flour on her hands, cinnamon rolls cooling on the counter. Sloane and Meredith at their college graduation, young and hopeful and completely unaware of what life had in store. A history, a family, a foundation. Meredith had returned to work 6 months ago. Not in marketing, not in the corporate world she had known before. She had started her own consulting firm, small but growing, specializing in helping companies develop ethical workplace policies, training executives on appropriate conduct, building systems that protected employees from the kinds of abuse she had experienced. It was not the career she had planned, but it was the career she needed, the career that made sense of everything she had been through. She had 3 employees now, a small office downtown, clients who valued her perspective and respected her expertise. She was busy, exhausted, fulfilled in ways she had never expected. The dashcam footage still circulated occasionally. Every few months, someone would rediscover it, share it on social media, comment on the bravery of the pregnant woman who had documented her own abuse. Meredith no longer watched it. That woman on the porch, barefoot in December, terrified and alone. She remembered her, she honored her, but she was not her anymore. Grant worked at a small logistics company 3 states away, a fraction of his former salary, a fraction of his former prestige. His name was still toxic in the industry he had once dominated. He had supervised visitation with Eleanor once a month, 2 hours, a court-appointed supervisor present at all times. He showed up. He brought presents. He tried to connect with the daughter he had never wanted, the daughter whose existence he had once described as convenient. Eleanor did not know him, not really. He was the man who appeared sometimes with toys, the stranger who smiled too much and tried too hard. She was polite to him because Meredith had taught her to be polite, but there was no bond, no connection, no love. That was his punishment, Meredith sometimes thought, not the criminal conviction or the divorce or the career destruction. The real punishment was having a beautiful daughter who looked at him like a stranger, who would never run to him with joy, who would never call him when she was scared or hurt or needed comfort. He had thrown away his family for a woman who had already moved to Seattle, for an affair that had already burned itself out, for a fantasy that had crumbled the moment it faced reality. Tessa Marlowe sent a Christmas card every year, a simple note. Hope you and Eleanor are well. They were not friends, would never be friends, but they were something. 2 women who had survived the same storm. 2 women who had learned the same hard lessons about the man they had both loved. Carolyn came over every Thursday to babysit. She claimed it was for Meredith's benefit, so she could have a social life, go on dates, build a future that included adult companionship. But everyone knew the real reason. Caroline wanted to spoil her granddaughter, wanted to bake cookies with her and read her stories and teach her all the things grandmothers teach their grandchildren. Eleanor called her Nana. The word had emerged about a month ago, clear as a bell. Nana. Carolyn had cried for 20 minutes. Sloane was Eleanor's godmother. She took the responsibility with characteristic intensity. She had already enrolled Eleanor in her first toddler art class, was already planning her first trip to New York, was already talking about the adventures they would have together. On a quiet Tuesday evening, Meredith put Eleanor to bed. The nursery was exactly as she had imagined it. Yellow walls she had painted herself, white curtains from her mother's attic, a rocking chair in the corner where she fed Eleanor at 3 in the morning, a mobile with little stars that played lullabies. She stood in the doorway and watched her daughter sleep, the steady rise and fall of her small chest, the way her fist curled around the edge of her blanket, the peace on her small face. 1 year ago, Meredith had stood on a cold porch at midnight, barefoot, terrified, certain her life was over. She had been so wrong. She walked to her bedroom, caught sight of herself in the hall mirror. She looked tired. She always looked tired these days. Single motherhood did that, but she also looked content, at peace, like a woman who had walked through fire and chosen to build something new from the ashes. She sat down at her desk, opened her journal, a practice she had started after the divorce, writing down her thoughts, her fears, her hopes, the small victories and the hard days and everything in between. Tonight, she wrote, I used to think strength was holding everything together, keeping the marriage intact, making everyone happy, being the perfect wife and the perfect mother and the perfect everything. Now I know that is not strength. That is survival. That is endurance. That is white-knuckling your way through a life that does not fit you anymore. Real strength is letting everything fall apart, letting the illusions shatter, letting the lies crumble, trusting yourself to build something better from the pieces. The prison door was unlocked all along. I just had to walk through it. Eleanor is sleeping down the hall. My mother is a phone call away. My best friend would drive across the country if I needed her. I have work that matters and a home that is mine and a future that belongs to me. Grant took so much from me, my trust, my savings, my sense of safety, 4 years of my life that I will never get back. But he did not take everything. He did not take my daughter. He did not take my fight. He did not take my ability to love and to hope and to start over. I am not the woman I was a year ago. I am not the woman who believed the lies and ignored the signs and trusted blindly because trusting was easier than seeing. I am someone new, someone harder in some ways, softer in others, someone who knows that she can survive the worst and come out the other side. I am Meredith Colton. I am Eleanor's mother. I am exactly where I am supposed to be. She closed the journal. Outside, the December wind rattled the windows. The same month that had destroyed her life a year ago. The same cold, the same darkness, but everything was different. Meredith walked to the front porch. Porch, her home, her life. She stood in the December air and looked up at the stars. The same stars that had watched her sobbing in her car a year ago. The same universe that had witnessed her devastation. She was not devastated anymore. The Christmas lights twinkled along the roofline, colors she had chosen, a pattern she had designed. Everything about this place was hers, built by her, chosen by her, paid for with her own work and her own strength and her own refusal to give up. Her car sat in the driveway, the same silver Honda Accord. The Dashcam still worked, still recording. But there was nothing to record now. Just peace, just quiet, just the ordinary miracle of an ordinary night. She locked the door, her house, her future. She went upstairs to check on her daughter one more time. Eleanor was still sleeping, still peaceful, still perfect. Meredith leaned over the crib. She brushed a strand of hair from Eleanor's forehead. She breathed in the baby smell of her, the sweet warmth of innocence and trust and unconditional love. "Sleep well, brave girl," she whispered. "Tomorrow is going to be a good day." She meant it. For the first time in a very long time, she meant it completely. The world outside was cold and dark and full of people who might hurt her. Full of men like Grant who lied and cheated and threw their families away for selfish desires. But the world inside was warm, safe, filled with love and hope and the endless possibility of tomorrow. Meredith had lost everything once: her home, her marriage, her trust, her belief in happy endings. She had found something better. She had found herself. And that, she knew now, was worth everything she had been through to get here. And that is how Meredith Colton turned her darkest night into her greatest victory. If this story touched your heart, do me a small favor. Hit that like button. It only takes a second, but it means the world to me. Drop a comment below. Tell me what you would have done in her shoes. Share this with someone who needs to hear that starting over is possible. And if you have not already, subscribe and tap that bell. New stories every week. See you in the next one.